So do you think it's possible that being too positive could possibly be dangerous? We're going to dig into that question in this episode of A Cup of Kudos. You are listening to The Cup of Kudos Show, a podcast focused on sharing content filled with insight, motivation, inspiration, and sometimes a little spunk. Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're having an absolutely amazing day. We ended up, just flying into fall so quick, and all of a sudden it's starting to feel like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe this is winter. So I guess up north it is already snowing, if you can believe that. And I don't know, which leads to the old sayings about Michigan. You never know what's going to happen. So if you are listening live, you can come chat with me over on Spreaker. And I'm going to share a link to this post over on our Facebook page, which is kudosmagazine. And if you follow on there, you'll get notifications when we post and go live. So, yeah, if you get some time, come chat. I'd love to hear your input on this. There's just a chat box where you can leave comments, so it's not like I'm going to turn on the video on you. And that's one of the advantages of doing some audio and all these great things with social media. It gives us a chance to really get out there and express ourselves and maybe try to share with other people what we're going through. But at the same time, there can be these different tendencies of sugarcoating life. You know, we've got the good vibe tribe thing kicking, and we are notorious for pumping that out over on Cup of Kudos and Kudos Magazine. And, you know, we feel really gifted to be able to share words that can inspire people. But at the same time, there does come a little bit of danger when you start walking down this good vibe road. And it comes with being able to really get into dealing with difficult moments and being able to be honest with it. And I think that too often people can get stuck into this rut of feeling and expressing themselves only in this colorful way, that when difficult times happen, of trying to swallow the optimism pill, it's no longer healthy. And that can include when there are, different major changes that are happening in your life, whether you're dealing with, let's say a terminally ill child, or your house is burnt down, or you hate your job or your life, or you're coping with addiction. And when we try to just swallow the I'm okay antidote, it really doesn't help us get to a place of truth that, number one, we can help ourselves, or number two, that we can help other people. So today, this is what I want to talk to you about are some of these mishaps that we have by believing strictly what we say has to be in positive alignment. And I mean, if you really look at yin and yang, there's always the opposite. So if something is bad, there must be something that is good. But we'll just kind of keep it down like on a simple basis for today. But understanding that during difficult times, people need to have the ability to fully experience a real human experience. So let's say that a family is coping with a sudden death, maybe suicide, and trying to just say, oh, I'm okay, or whatever it is. That full range of emotion hasn't been necessarily experienced. And right now, we're often in the stage of automatic clearing out of our minds of different stories. Like everything changes so quickly that something that happened a month ago we consider ancient. But when there's somebody that's dealing with grief, a year, 5 years can be like a blink of an eye, or it could feel like it's just been a day. So to be able to get into that place of saying, hey, I'm okay, may really not be truthful. And when we deny it, it creates a scenario, number one, where we're not able to get to healing. And through our own healing, we're able to help other people that are going to go through that same path or journey that's similar to what we've experienced in that life. And I think that's one of the things that is on the flip side of being a little bit dangerous with this positive mindset is people that will push things down. And if you look at even from like a military standpoint of soldiers that come back that have PTSD, and a lot of that has to do with, the extreme things that they witnessed or experienced during a time, and then having to suppress it, and then it comes back in different ways. And I mean, you can go and do research that will talk about, your subconscious and conscious and all of it filtering out in other ways. But being able to take the time to be proactive so that you can address it instead of just sugarcoating it and saying, hey, yeah, I'm okay, even though you may not be. And for society to stop putting parameters in their mind of what time may be required for healing or for people to be able to get to that genuine, authentic, happy place. Because when you actually go through it, the experience is different than when you're being told about something, which is true with everything in life. So, but right now as humans, we really have the attention span shorter than a goldfish. I think a goldfish is 7 seconds. And I think humans recently in research showed average attention span of 5 seconds. And, that's from like a marketing standpoint. But when you apply that into our personal life and how we interact and engage with other humans, it's quite interesting. And I've heard of multiple families that have gone through scenarios with a loved one that has long-term illness and maybe even eventually pass away. And for people that are on the outside, where 5 years feels like 5 years, but to that person that has gone through that, it may feel like, this has only been a year passing. So we all have these different perspectives when it comes to, how we fully experience emotions as a human. But starting to also realize, hey, you are not your emotion, but it's okay to feel it fully in this experience, while you're being alive, and not having to hide, if you're suffering or feel like you have to put on your happy face. And it takes practice, especially for a lot of the people that are pulling weight, maybe for an entire family, and trying to act like everything's okay so they're not faced with judgment of society. But that's where we can do some different things to create a better experience for other people. And here's just 4 simple things that I want to suggest is if you see somebody that's going through a very difficult storm and maybe the positivity pill is not the answer, like saying everything will be okay tomorrow. Sometimes it's okay to just not say that, even though it will be true, things will work out for the greater good. So the first thing, number 1, is listen. Just listen to what they are experiencing and try not to put parameters around the words while they are working through these emotions. Just listen. And while you're doing that, eliminate judgment, because as we go through different things through life, that experience that we go through helps us better understand things. And until we've gone through that, we can't necessarily understand it. As complicated as it sounds, it goes down to this: you don't know what you don't know. So while you're listening, the second one is ditch the judgment. And next is realize we all heal in our own time. So going back to what I was saying, 5 years may feel like a blink of an eye. It may feel like 1 year to that other person, to maybe a mother or father who lost their child. It doesn't just go away just because you think it should, that pain. And there's a saying that I guess can articulate one part of grieving, which is it comes in waves, but in time, the waves become less frequent and maybe less intense. But every once in a while, you get a tsunami. And I think that may be true for families that are even in a point where maybe they have a child that is experiencing long-term sickness, or a spouse, or, loved one that they're caring for. And this can even go for, it doesn't always have to be something dramatic about like somebody that's dying. Part of it could be something that's, dying within us, of us not reaching our dreams or goals because we haven't put forth the effort, and going through that storm. But and this is where it goes back to, on the flip side, those last things. Let me just clear this up really quick. Simple things you can do to help other people. It's listen, eliminate judgment, realize we all heal in our own time. And the last one is that we all have our own emotional needs. So some people may need a little bit more time, or a little bit more TLC or therapy or whatever. But while they're going through that and working out that experience, stop the shaming and try to help them, see how their emotions can go beyond the quick label of, hey, I'm okay, whether it's good or bad, and it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. But that's just a normal part of life, is different things could happen. And it may even be something like where you don't feel positive. Maybe you feel angry. And maybe you feel angry because you hate your job. You're getting up every single day. You despise going in there. But then you've got to break it down. If you hate your job, why is it that you hate your job and what it is that you're doing? And then being accountable to say, hey, here's some of the things I'm going to do to make a change and to make a positive comeback, and to actually feel it, that anger of where you're at, but articulating it, not just being angry, being able to articulate it's because your job and what you don't like and what you're going to do about it. That's how you can get to the point of being positive, but just sugarcoating it and saying, hey, feel good. Feel good because I said so. And if you don't feel good, and if you don't say positive things, it's your fault that you're miserable. Well, it's not quite true. And that's where it gets to this dangerous part of this idea of positive thinking, of being the only way. Because to get really to a point of being positive, you've got to go through the journey. And it's possible, but it takes work and it takes time. And that's going to be based on your own individual, each of us, our own individual way. And not being afraid of saying, hey, I need more time. And finding a little bit of joy in that journey of being able to discover new ways of expressing yourself, and just instead of just saying, hey, I'm okay, you got to move a little bit beyond that. So start getting a little specific with things. So, but if you have found yourself in one of these situations and trying to figure out how the heck do I get out of this, because we don't want to be stuck in this place of grief or anger or sadness. I mean, these are all real emotions. And I mean, if you're really human, you're going to experience an entire variety of different emotions while you're alive. And if you're not, that means that you're dead. I mean, really, that's the truth. That's the only time that you're not feeling something. You're no longer here. So taking that accountability and realizing, hey, wait a minute, there's some things that I can do to help me get to the point of healing, and not just saying positive jargon because it's now considered the new politically correct language. It really is, where people will try to express like what they're going through, and that's not supposed to be talked about. Shh, shh, shh. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. Yeah, well, sometimes there may be a time that you have to spit that out and then cancel it out by doing the work through it. But by us sugarcoating it, it doesn't allow true healing to happen with other people. But you just can't get stuck in the pain, nor can you suck it up and eat the pain. It's dangerous. It's evil to yourself and to your mind, because then you're tucking away just like that, with PTSD. Eventually those emotions are going to come out in some way through the actions that we take, through the whatever. So you've got to work through it. And this may be even past trauma that you have that maybe you've hidden, and you're finding it coming out in other ways with other things. And it just continues to grow until you get out and you do the work. So some of the things that you can do, and I've talked to you about this a lot, is the gift of journaling, of getting your own private notebook and journaling and finding things that can bring you joy by identifying, really what are the things that you're feeling that are coming from a negative connotation. Where's it stemming from? Where can you make changes to eliminate that? And you can find power in your words by being very specific with what you're feeling. Not just saying, I feel sad. Identifying, why do you feel sad? Oh, you hate your job. Okay, what are the steps that you're going to take to change that so that you can find joy, so that you can live in that good faith every day? And it's not going to be by just saying, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And women are notorious for that. Oh, I'm fine. Get into a disagreement with your spouse or your loved one. And how many of you are guilty for going and saying, I'm fine, and then going and pouting instead of dealing with what it is that's really edging you on? And then the next day you just go through and you blow through it. That's how you start building up a volcano. It's going to blow. It's going to blow. So it's good to get in and do meditation and do prayer. But when you have this real trauma, you're going to have to go further. You're going to have to do more work. And it's going to take courage to do it. So having that good inner circle that can understand the journey and understand these awakenings that you're having and not pass judgment. And at the same time as you're going through it, not have anybody project other things onto you other than what it is that you're working through yourself. And that's where you can start to find some of these gifts of getting inner peace so that it's true happiness and not just sugar-coated, like corn syrup. That's not even real sugar. It's like, yeah, please, no. Give me something natural and beautiful and sweet, even if it takes a little bit longer. And that's where I hope that you can start to find more peace instead of just biting into a quick night-size nugget of here's a little positivity. Suck it up, buttercup. You know, if you got a kid that's sick in the hospital, it's hard to suck it up, but you can lean into faith and you can lean into prayer and you can identify, you know, I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling what it is that you're feeling and surrendering it up, offering it up, journaling it out, working it through, not eating it and consuming it in your gut. You know, start getting an ulcer. You wonder why when people get stressed out, they end up with these ulcers and they seem like they're so calm on the outside. You know, a lot of it has to do with what are you swallowing and, I mean, what are you eating and all that, but literally, like, what are you swallowing emotionally? It's toxic for your stomach. It is. You know, and also, you know, being careful of when you're going through these difficulties, what are the comments that you're allowing to be said around you and that you accept for yourself. You know, there's a story in the Bible about how Jesus was walking and there was a guy that was born blind and he was just born that way. And some of the people said, what sin caused him to be born that way? Was it his sin or his parents' sin? Whose was it? And it was no one's sin. It was a chance to be able to show miracles and greatness and, you know, meaning it was preordained. And, you know, he ended up healing his eyes, grabbing some clay and spitting on it and putting it on his eyes. And that leads into another story. But the point is, it wasn't anything to do with what he said or what he did. So if you have a bad thought or things are going chaotic, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because of something bad that you said and that you attracted it to you. Some of it's just life experience of things that are going to happen. If you have a child that's born sick and has long-term healthcare needs, it's not because you said something or ordained that through a thought you have. And this is where it starts to become very dangerous with positive thinking, of not identifying some of the extreme outer cases of everyday life for some. And I want to just validate that for you. If you've been having, this hardship, that it's okay. And even though it's difficult, there will be goodness that's coming. But I want you to know it's okay to fully feel what you're feeling. And then to take permission for yourself. This is where you have to empower yourself. Yes, it's okay to feel this, but it's also your personal responsibility to start seeking the healing and start doing the things that you can do to make this a life still of purpose while you're here that can help not only yourself, but the people that follow after. That could be in your immediate family or your community. But just, walking through and acting like, hey, everything's fine, and ignoring it or expecting people to do that is not wrong. It's not right. It's wrong. It's dangerous. It's poisonous. It's poisonous for us as an entire society because we have these people that haven't found a way to communicate. Number one, because they're already maybe choking on pain and suffering, but through taking the time to heal and having the tools and permission to walk through those emotions is important, and there's, I forget what they call it, but with death and dying, they have like the stages of death and dying, of like anger, denial, getting all the way through and then eventually acceptance. But there's a reason why there's those stages. You don't go from anger to joyful, like with something like that, it takes time. And you'll hear often, even with parents that have had a child who had long-term health care and eventually passed away, that the parents are left often exhausted, not just from like the death, but from the time that it took prior to their loved one leaving. It's exhausting. And it's okay to admit that you're exhausted. And it's okay to fully experience that and angry and pissed, and it's okay. But you got to find a way to start to work through that and continue on and not feel alone. I think that's the big thing right there, is making sure that positivity isn't used in a way to censor the way that you're feeling, and being able to heal from it fully and not carrying stigmas or shame with that. And I'm hoping that people that are listening to this today are feeling like they have permission to go through that and to find I don't know, a sense of a new joy, even after through heartache and difficulty. And I've seen it. It is possible. Just things are different, and it takes time for healing and goodness, you know. But when you're going through that hard time, it's very difficult, and some people may not quite understand. And that's okay. It's okay, because this is your journey, you know, and getting caught into the state of just, you know, half feeling it, you know, that's not really living life. It's not. So Sadhguru, I'm going to include a link for you in the comments. But he talks about sharing insights and living through the struggle without overthinking, but just being in the moment. And if you can change your life energy, you can start to have more control over your destination. But part of that has to do with having personal responsibility in navigating the experience that you're having in this world right now. And the struggle is real. But if you go over into that video and you click in about 9 minutes into the video, he shares some pretty good insights, which was great. But part of it is just mastering the art of being okay, and, you know, taking some steps in a good way to reach past that. Reach past being just okay. And realize it's okay to have some negative emotions, as some people may call it. You know, it's great to, and trust me, I love being happy. I love laughing. However, in life, there's times that these things happen, you know, that you have anger, sadness, or grief, and these are normal human emotions, you know. So it's amazing what we go through as humans and how resilient we can be. But just don't keep sucking it up. Do some of the things that I talked about, you know, the journaling and finding joy again, make positive changes. Find power in your words by being very specific to what you're feeling, you know, and then start to take steps forward to change into the way that you want to feel, you know, and be able to express yourself fully without being limited or binded by an expression of only being able to say positive words, you know. And as you start to get through this step, you know, after you've gone through a traumatic phase, a real struggle, you can get into some of the really fun exercises, you know, like go 24 hours without having one negative thought, not one, and to take it and to turn it, to twist it into different ways, you know. But to me, I think it's almost like step 2. If you've gone through, you know, some of these really hard things, or going through it now, to fully feel that and then start to implement some of these next steps of the deep dive positive thinking, you know, but being very aware of the wide range of emotions that we have as humans, and that we shouldn't have to ditch them. We should be able to feel them all fully, without regret, without explanation. I'm not talking about crazy, like going and acting out of your freaking mind like a nut job. I'm not talking about that. There may be times that happens too, you know, like with real trauma. we have these images of how we're supposed to react based on like Hollywood movies, this assumption. And it's a, 1 hour movie. And it's supposed to be the summary of, the emotional roller coaster story of the character and whatever movie that you have going on. But in real life, that's not how it is. That 1 minute could be, in real life, 5 years, so it takes time. So, and like I said to you before, when you're dead, that's when you ditch emotion, like you're no longer here. But it's okay to feel stressed or uncomfortable. All that's normal. It's a part of, growing and living life. But if a loved one dies, we have this human connection, and we're going to feel the grief. We're going to feel the end. We're going to feel the finale, but it would be odd not to, so just be aware of that and don't buy into the lies of, whatever parameter of time that you take to heal, but be proactive, There's this, I want to read this to you really quick. Psalms 56:8, and it says, keep track of all my sorrows. You've collected all my tears in your bottle, and you've recorded each one in your book. And this is sort of the interesting thing about that verse is back in that, like in the Greeks and the Romans, they used to take tears that were shed for their loved ones, and they would put them in these different, urns and vials, and sometimes made of glass or stone or baked clay. And they would take it and they would store their tears on it, and then those tears were, often offered up to a tomb of the deceased one. And it was another way of passing their remembrance on to that time was real, that it had happened. But so know that when you're going through a hard time, it is very real, and it is not lost. It's real. But there comes a time, too, that you have to start to turn the seed into an opportunity to grow into something absolutely beautiful, So I thought that was kind of interesting with the Greeks and the Romans doing that. And it can be a way of, just showing loved ones haven't been forgotten. I mean, I didn't go collect any of my tears, or remember when Angelina Jolie was collecting, who was she married to? Billy Bob Thornton or something. And they had each other's blood vial or something like that. Yeah, I'm not talking about anything like that, but it was just like ancient times. And that's how that passage tied into it. Keep track of all your sours in your tear bottle. So I guess the thing is know that emotions not necessarily, it doesn't have to be defined as good or bad. And sometimes when we go through something that's really dark and difficult, it can lead to magnificent spots of light, because in the darkest of dark, even the slightest flinter of light is magnetized 1,000 times brighter, it seems, So just remember that even during the difficult times, some of the smallest acts of kindness can be absolutely remarkable, and can give life and healing. But that comes under the pretense of not going into things and being judgmental and expecting people to have a certain reaction or, something like that, because it doesn't necessarily happen under the way that you expect other people to act, happy-go-lucky, based on your experience. We're all different. So sometimes forced positivity can be cruel because it denies humans the experience to fully feel their human experience. And I want to encourage you, to start to become aware of that, instead of maybe just tell your children to turn to just positive thinking, start to give them tools to work through what it is that they've gone through in real life, and then tools to implement positivity. It's kind of like if you have something that's soiled, you can't just keep pouring water in on it. Eventually you got to clean it and wring it out, and then, start over fresh again and add more water or more whatever it is, cleaning solution, instead of just thinking, hey, I'm just going to ignore these emotions, this difficult time, and I'm just going to go sprinkle my happy-go-lucky glitter on it. It's kind of like taking a dog turd and throwing some confetti on it and saying, voila, still a pile of turd. Even if you put a happy balloon by it, it's painful, it's crappy. But as you start to work through it, you can start to take that crap into it, turn it into manure, make a beautiful garden. And I know it's a little over the top, but if you've been down these roads of struggling and trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to do this? And you have the happy-go-lucky vibe tribe, like you come over to kudosmagazine on Facebook and you feel like you're going to vomit because there's all these happy posts. I just want to say to you, hey, those are to stimulate new positive thoughts, but you're justified to work through what pain, suffering, difficulty, disappointment you have. But at a certain point, you yourself have to decide that you're going to get out of the corner with the pile of poop and then get your butt back out to the garden to build something beautiful and new. And I see it every day with some people that decide to go out to the garden and build something beautiful through their difficulty and their struggle that they've gone through. And I've also seen it where people chose the opposite way of to just sit there with a pile of crap and go down the path of self-destruction of it, whether it be drugs, alcohol, sex, overspending, overeating, over. And you want to know what that over is? That over is just putting more confetti on that pile of crap. You got to take it out to the garden and you got to till it. And you got to get to the point where that becomes the most fantastic compost for your garden and it's no longer crap. All right, I'm done with the crap analogy, but I think that you get my point. And don't feel guilty about fully recognizing it for what it is, because that's where you can start to get to your place of strength of, hey, good times ahead. I got my blessings coming, and you do too. But the big thing is, you guys, be supportive of other people. Quit acting like everybody should just suck it up when they're going through a hard time. It's all right. Share your love and your positivity, but be patient as other people are getting down their path. And if you are, guess what? Every single day, they're going to get a little bit better and be able to bring that true, authentic positivity. All right, you guys. If you haven't subscribed to us, I'd appreciate if you did. If you got something out of this series, share it with a friend. And you can find us over at iTunes and iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. Facebook, you can find us at Kudos Magazine. And on YouTube, Cup of Kudos. Have a great day, guys.